Okay, so this is a rare thing, but I'm mostly going to be going off ripping this video, so yeah, that's a thing. I dreaded doing this video. The Los Angeles Clippers had one of the most disappointing playoff run from a team that was looked at to be a championship contender. They flat out choked to the Denver Nuggets, and that was a choke job that exposed an issue with this team. It really wasn't a talent issue. This team had the talent to win a championship. The problem was lack of leadership, team chemistry, and this team's overall mindset. They kind of already believed they were the 2020 NBA champions before being crowned. This team draws similarities to the 2011 Miami Heat squad that lost to the Dallas Mavericks. On paper, the Heat should have beat the Mavericks, and this is coming from a Mavericks fan, but when you have LeBron saying not one, not two, not three, not four, then doing that ridiculous mocking of Dirk Nowitzki's coffin, then blowing game 2 and inconsistency from their stars, this Miami Heat team kind of believed they were already champions before being crowned, and they were quickly humbled. You gotta give props to the Mavericks because team chemistry wise, mentally as a team, they were the true champions and they won it. When you have leaders like Jason Kidd, Dirk Nowitzki, Jason Terry, and this team just hungry and has that bond together, they were going to keep fighting, and fight they did. The Mavs won because they had the better team chemistry, which is why it makes me upset that Mark Cuban blew up that team immediately. Like, come on, Mark, you could have left that team for one more year. Props to LeBron James bouncing back, and in 2012, this Miami Heat team, everyone understood their roles, they were humbled, and LeBron grew to become a better leader and bounced back and won a title. So, going back to this Clippers team, I hope this will be the same case to where they are humbled. This team has no leader. They had little team chemistry. Maybe they need a better leader of a floor general, but the leadership and chemistry wasn't existent. But maybe you can say, oh, injuries. All of them really wasn't on the floor together consistently through the season. And remember, this is a year one team, and winning in just year one is hard to do. Chemistry together may be hard to build in year one, so that's a valid argument for the Clippers there. The Clippers' loss to the Nuggets wasn't a talent issue. It was a team mentality issue. No sort of leader, no sort of guy to hold others accountable, and they already believed they were champions. Because the Nuggets were beat. Let's be honest here. The Clippers had the Nuggets beat. The Nuggets were done. 3-1, and you basically had the Nuggets beat in the second half of 2 straight closeout games. 2. But when you let your foot off the gas to a team who has just been in the same position in the first round, teams are going to start crawling back, and that's what the Nuggets did because they had better team chemistry and they played together, and that's how they won. And props to the Nuggets because they did exploit a weakness in the Clippers, which was their bigs, and when you have a guy like Jokic, he can make stuff happen. Doc Rivers couldn't get this team disciplined. He ended up getting fired. They brought in Tyronn Lue, and that was a big thing that happened in the offseason. Doc Rivers getting fired, and it's basically off of that 3-1 series collapse. And that's another hit on Doc Rivers' career. Like he's only known for that Boston Celtics 2008 championship, and other than that, what has he done? And he's now in Philly, so I don't know what's next for Doc Rivers, but one thing I know is that it was disappointing seeing him coaching this team in that playoff series against the Nuggets because the team wasn't disciplined. The team wasn't together offensively and defensively, and there wasn't adjustments made by him to where the Clippers can fight back and close the game. And closing out a playoff game, let me just say this, it's hard, it's difficult, because closing out playoff games, it's tough. Everyone's competing at a high level. Everyone's competing hard because they know their backs are against the wall. So you're going to get some high level competition. But you have the talent, and you couldn't close out this Nuggets team. That's a stain on Doc Rivers. And I don't know where he goes from here. And the crazy thing is, the Nuggets just came from this against the Utah Jazz. 3-1, the same exact thing. So if you can't get your team disciplined in that same situation, it's gonna raise concerns about your coaching. But it's not all on Doc Rivers, it's the team as a whole. They weren't competing consistently to how they were in the first halves. Maybe they could have used a better floor general leader point guard. But also, when Patrick Beverley and Paul George trash talking about Cancun on 3 to Damian Lillard, Paul George saying the Mavs defense isn't great after a loss and scoring 9 points on bad efficiency, then the whole Lemon Pepper Lou fiasco, Montrezl Harrell, I believe, in January basically saying this team needs to wake up after losing by 20 points in a game. I don't know about this team. There's a lot of questions going into next season about them. Kawhi Leonard is the best player on the team, and he had one bad game, which was crucial for him. And I gave him some slander. I like Kawhi Leonard. That guy's a killer. But it was just one game that one game really hurt him. Poor shooting night, and Kawhi was consistent throughout the entire playoffs, and he was getting good shots, but he just wasn't connecting on them. I'm not worried about him, but I don't think he is a vocal of a guy, and that may kill him as a leader. And now we look at Greg Popovich, great coach, who said a few years ago that Kawhi is a great player, but wasn't a leader. And that came from Greg Popovich. But that also is a big thing. That's a former coach who basically saw the whole entire development of Kawhi Leonard. So him saying that holds a lot of weight. A lot of weight. Then a rumor that Paul George didn't command the respect of the locker room. And if that's true, that's big, because those are your two best players that lack leadership. Now this team brought in Tyronn Lue as the head coach, and credit to him, he is a guy who can manage a team and at least help get these guys' mindset on the right path, but not high on him as a coach. They lost Montrezl Harrell to the Lakers, so that's losing a big, but they did gain Serge Ibaka, which I feel may be better for this team. Can stretch the floor, play some defense, and maybe be a guy to boost the team chemistry. He's coming from the Toronto Raptors and won a championship with Kawhi there. So that's a plus, having another guy who won a championship on your team. And the Clippers can play him at center and power forward. If they do run him at center, Ibaka introduces an element for this team, being a floor spacer, which the team didn't have too much of last season with Harrell and Zubac being the main centers. And they needed a floor spacer, especially since JaMychal Green left for the Nuggets. Clippers re-signed Patrick Patterson, and Marcus Morris got a contract, $64 million for 4 years, which I'm indifferent on. Didn't think he would get 4 years and that kind of money, but this is a guy who can be that solid fourth option and give you good offensive production. Good 3-point shooter, can play in the low post. Don't know if I like the contract situation, but glad he is still on this team. This was a close to 20 points per game scoring guy when he was with the Knicks. Obviously had a bigger role, but he is capable of giving you good offensive production. They traded for Luke Kennard, but I'm not entirely in love with the trade. I feel Landry Shamet was an underrated piece on this team, but Luke is another offensive option, either off the bench or as a starter, or however Lou will play him. But Luke played in 28 games last season, and injury concerns may be something to watch out with him. But he's a good shooter, can be another ball handler, and capable playmaker for this team. And really, that's it for this team's off season. They still have Kawhi and Paul George, and I don't know if they keep Lou Williams. In the upcoming weeks, that's something we have to look at, because they may trade him. But overall, there is going to be a lot of pressure on this Clippers team. They became a laughingstock after their playoff series. This is a team that can contend for a championship. They have the talent. They have it. It's all there. The pieces are there. It's just the chemistry. And mix that with now everyone is going to have their eyes on them. Twitter's going to have a field day with this team if they don't perform up to expectations. They are going to have a field day. If you think after that Nuggets series was bad, whew, I've seen some pretty bad stuff on Twitter, man. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine what will happen with the Clippers if they, let's say, get booted in the first round. Oh man, ooh, oh boy. But my main concern is, how will their team chemistry be? Will they be locked in? Does this team have the mentality to where they can close out games and stay the course of the game? Can they block out the noise of media and social media? And this is scary. This is scary asking, because I still don't know who is the leader of this team. This is a talented team, but until they address those issues as a team, they may fall short of a championship. And if we look at all the past championship teams, Warriors, Raptors, Cavs, Spurs, Mavericks, and teams that got to the finals, such as last season's Miami Heat team, they all have a clear leader or leaders. They have team chemistry, and they have players who understand their roles.